Slimehouse TV, myself Theo Kane, hope everybody's good, hope everybody's on a good vibe, and thank you for tuning into my show every single week. There's so much choice on YouTube, there's so many other videos you can be watching, people that know way more about toys than I do and that kind of thing, so I really do appreciate that every single week you lock into some Toy Talk Tuesday. Hold tight to Slime Alliance, hold tight to Slime Renegades, and in today's episode I've got something fun to talk about. So in the last one that I did of this kind of like video, I asked people to send in their toy fails, their toy nightmares, their horror stories of being a toy collector, and we went through all of them, and there were some funny ones, there were some sad ones, and I shared a couple of my own. And in today's episode I wanted to completely flip the script and do something that's completely adjacent to that and talk about your toy wins. Let me know about a good time, a good memory that you have of toys, a time when you snagged something awesome, a time when you stumbled upon a holy grail, and I'm going to share a couple of mine as well. So all the stuff that I'm going to get through today are things that you've sent me in, so once again thank you so much to everybody that's got involved in this episode. Let's get into them. I also want to let you know that so many people got involved in this, and I got lots that obviously I'm not going to be able to go through because I got too many, and also some of them were like a real long paragraph email message that kind of felt like they deserved a Toy Talk episode all of their own because they were like such a big elaborate story to it and not something that I can just fly through in a video that features so many others. So I've just picked 10 today that I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to go through a couple of mine at the end and that kind of thing. So the first one that I'm going to get through is by a guy called Gerard McGill, and he said a complete Fortress Maximus listed for 100, but the shop had a 20% sale on the day I went in to get it. Couldn't wait to get out in case someone realized the mistake. Haha. So maybe it wasn't a mistake. This guy obviously went into some kind of vintage store that had like a 20% sale on that day, and I've done this myself. It's always awesome when you go into a shop and they're like, oh, luckily today is 20-30% off everything. So you can sometimes bag something that, you know what, normally I wouldn't pay that much for it, but the fact there's 20-30% off, you get a nice deal. In fact, when I got the Gozak from Blackpool, that was a very similar deal. I went in on a day when he'd reduced it, but it was also a day when they were having like a 20% sale on everything. So sometimes when a shop does that, you can go in and grab a real bargain. Also, if you know anything about Gen 1 Transformers, this guy Fortress Maximus is like the biggest one that you can get out of all the original Transformers lines. Like, he's the biggest one that you can get, worth way more than $100, especially, was this $100 or £100? He just put 100, I take it it's $100. I don't think this guy's English, but either way, like, getting that at that price was an absolute steal. I don't know if it was boxed, if it was complete or anything like that. Well, he says, yeah, a complete Fortress Maximus, so it might have been boxed, might have been complete, but either way, that for $100 plus 20% off was an absolute steal, so big ups to that guy. That is a definite toy win. Another guy here, Kay Conlon, over on Facebook, dropped his toy win. Not necessarily a toy, but still something collectible and still something that's very much within the genre of the things that we collect. These were some Power Rangers coins, and he put sentimental value. David Yost, who played the Blue Power Ranger in the original Power Rangers series, Billy. Years before, last done an IG 12 Days of Christmas Holiday giveaway, and I won, and I was totally picked at random. I won the part that makes it special that he signed it without asking him to. Picture is a screen grab from eBay. Mine is at home safe. So he's put a screen grab of one that was on eBay just to show me what he got, but basically it looks like David Yost on his IG, the guy who played Billy, the original Blue Ranger, did like a giveaway or something like that. And whenever there's a giveaway on Instagram or something like that, people always do them. I've done them myself. You kind of think, oh, I'm not going to enter it, thousands of other people are going to enter it, what's the chances of me winning? But every now and again you do actually win something. There's been a couple of times where I've won something cool, and when I've ran competitions on my page, I've just done it on like the spinning wheel app that you can get, where it just picks a name at random, and the person that's won it has always said, oh, I never win anything, I can't believe I won it. So it does happen, you have to do this, and it shows that this guy Kay Conlon, he just took a punt on a giveaway, and he ended up winning it. So it looks like he got like a nice set of the original five power coins, and it was signed by Billy the Blue Ranger, David Yost. So again, another absolute win. Not necessarily a toy win, but it's Power Rangers, so it's all to do with the stuff that we love. Another one here over on Facebook, very similar, Emma Hansen. She said that, I think this guy's her son, Riley joined in another wrestling collecting group on Facebook just before his 8th birthday, where they run monthly quizzes, but he was too shy to join in until one of the members went out of his way to make us both feel included and started a friendly rivalry. Anyhow, Riley beat the member in question in the quiz, and as a goodwill gesture, the other person bought Riley 2 spots in a raffle, which he then went on and won. This 80s UK doink. This fully kickstarted his collecting and remains a central part of it now. No doubt, man. So this guy's 8 years old, just before his 8th birthday. He's into collecting wrestling stuff, and as a goodwill gesture on a Facebook group, somebody's bought him 2 places in a raffle, and he's won an original Doink the Clown, which looks great. That it's, oh yeah, UK 8. So yeah, an absolute toy win, little dude. And the Hasbro wrestlers are one of those things that even if you're not a collector of them, chances are you've got a couple in your collection. I've got Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper. I've had the entire set pretty much before over the years and then sold them for whatever reason, for toy money and things like that, when you just get bored of a line or they're taking up too much shelf space or anything like that. But I've got a lot of love for that line and they're an absolute classic. So yeah, definite toy win for this guy. And it also just goes to show that when you see these things on Facebook groups like these raffles, these competitions and stuff like that, it doesn't hurt to get involved in them, because every now and again you strike gold, you strike lucky, and you end up coming home with something awesome. Another guy here, Paul Foster, over on Facebook, he says that he got a Thundercat full-size lair for £100 plus tank thrown in for free, which is always nice when you're buying something and they throw you in a little extra. And then on the way back home, he picked up a TMNT bundle for £20, including all the main figures, the weapons, the van, multiple skateboards and much more. That was a good road trip. Sounds like a good road trip to me. Sounds like he did a little bit of a Facebook Marketplace kind of deal where he saw a few things and thought, okay, I can drive there, pick that up on the way home and things like that. And Facebook Marketplace can still be a real awesome place to pick things up. See, in this day and age where everybody like finds something in their loft and they're like, oh, that might be worth something, I'll have a look on eBay, I'll do a quick search on eBay at sold listings and things like that. Or more time, people don't even look at the sold listings. They just go on eBay, they look at the buy it now price and they think that's what it's worth. Then it ends up with Facebook Marketplace having like a lot of stuff on that's like super expensive. But every now and again you do strike gold and you do pick something up nice off Facebook Marketplace. You also see people that think that anything that's old, that's from the 80s or the 90s or the 70s or whatever, is worth money, and it's not always worth money. Just because it's old, it doesn't mean that it's gold. But if you can sift through all those people trying to sell stuff for a lot of money, then every now and again you do stumble upon a bargain. So it's always worth keeping a lookout on Facebook Marketplace for the bargains, because they are there, you just have to look for them. Someone else over on Facebook, Nabsy RM from another Facebook group, he put up a nice picture of a mint on the card Hasbro Bret Hart wrestler figure, and he wrote, right, I won this bad boy last November. The whole shebang, toys, figures and signed memorabilia. That's a group on Facebook that I'm not a part of, but I take it they must do some kind of like giveaways and raffles and things like that. Literally a few days before my birthday, I spent £20 on 10 tickets. The figure was valued at the time at £900, but now it's at least £1,000. Definitely my most expensive win to date and an absolute toy win. Another really cool story as well about the old Hasbro wrestlers is years and years ago when I was like 14 or something like that, so we're going back like 20 odd years, I was at a fun fair with my mom and my sisters. We was out in Derby randomly at a fun fair, not a toy fair, a fun fair that has like helter-skelter rides and the big wheel and all that shit, and they had a hooker duck there, and one of the prizes on the hooker duck was a double set of the Bushwhackers, the old Hasbro wrestler Bushwhackers, and this was like years and years and years after they'd been sold in stores, but I saw that they was on the hooker duck and I knew that it was worth money. Even then, it's worth more money now than it was like when I was 14 or whatever, but it was still worth money then. And I said to the guy, like, how do I win that? And he goes, all you've got to do is it's one of the lowest prizes, so all you've got to do is just hook one duck and then you can win it for £2. So I gave him £2, hooked the duck and walked away with a double set of the Bushwhackers, and I put them in my dad's vintage centre and made a nice little raise on them. So yeah, these things do turn up in the most random of places, even at a fucking fun fair when I was 14 at Derby. It also makes you feel that, like, I wonder if this person had loads at one point, like they'd got a shipping crate full of them and this was the last one left. I guess we'll never know. Hold tight, Ryan Davis from Rise Toys and Stuff over on Instagram, a good friend of mine. I was recently on the podcast toy division with him and Plastic Dan and Dan Plastic and talking toys and stuff like that. It's real good. Go back and check it out if you haven't already over on the Toy Division YouTube. And he says, my parents said they'd gotten rid of everything from when I was a child when I went to uni, and they had all of my gaming stuff, my NES, my N64, loads of toys, livid. Years and years later though, I found a box with a few Action Men and Kenner Batman snap-on armor. They're now my favourite things in my collection. Win. You would be surprised how many people have messaged me and said, even from the first one that we did when we talked about like toy nightmares, people who say like, oh, my parents got rid of all my stuff and I was really sad and it's a toy nightmare. But you'd be surprised how many people message me about this like particular subject, saying that, oh, I thought my parents had got rid of everything, but then I looked in my loft and I found a box that they'd forgotten about, and I found some stuff and it wasn't all my best stuff, but it was some of the stuff that I had as a kid, and it's now the most treasured thing that I own. And we've all done that. There's always a couple, even when like we willingly said to our parents, yeah, sell that, I'm not bothered, I'm 15, I don't like toys anymore. And then like years later, we've kind of regretted it. And then you find a box under your bed, in a wardrobe, in the loft, in the attic, in the shed or something like that. And it's got a couple of bits in, a couple of toys that like got away, a couple that like missed getting sent off to the car boot and things like that. And they do become some of our favorites. I've got a couple of battle beasts that like from a kid, and some rock lords and things that I had that I forgot about that were in boxes, and I'm so glad that I kept them. Apart from my Z-Bots, never sold my Z-Bots. It's funny, innit, that like all the toys that I had as a kid that I got rid of and stuff like that, one of the ones that I kept all this time were my Z-Bots. I never got rid of them. They were a line that I always fucking kept because I loved them so much. Shouts to Matthew Guru Hatchard. He got involved in the conversation. He runs my favourite ever YouTube channel. I've talked about it lots of times. He's got my favourite toy YouTube channel on here. Doesn't upload very much. I need him to upload more because I love his stuff. But that's Full On Robot Chubby over on Facebook. He says, my dad brought my old Falcon round in a ropey old bag full of holes, and somehow still rattling around in there was a minty R5D4. He's the droid that looks a bit like R2D2, but he's orange and white with more of a flatter head. One more shake of the bag and a B-Wing pilot pops out, followed by his tiny gun. That gun is minuscule, an absolute sliver of plastic. I was stunned that it had made it. Now they all live happily in my collection. And they're always the best ones for me. Even if it's not something that you owned as a kid, it was something that like you've gone to a car boot and you've bought a haul of toys, you've got a bag of toys, you've brought it home, you've emptied it out, and in the bottom is a tiny little weapon. The kind of thing that gets lost. Even now, as a toy collector who looks after all his toys, every now and again I will get one out to do like a video on it for Slimehouse and things like that, and for whatever reason I'll knock it over or I'll drop it, and I'm like, shit, I've lost its little gun, and I'll spend like an hour looking for it. And that's me as an adult that knows this stuff's worth a lot of money, or it's rare, or I don't want to lose it because I want to protect it because it's in my collection. That's me like dropping a little gun and losing it. As imagine as a kid, like a little Star Wars pistol, like you drop it, you probably look for it for 5 minutes and then get distracted and forget that it ever existed. So the fact that you can like find a little gun in like a bag of bits is so fucking awesome. And then if it's one that you had yourself as a kid, like Matt did, his dad brought him this Millennium Falcon round and there was a couple of bits rattling inside it, and out was a tiny little sliver of plastic gun as he described it. That's fucking awesome, a definite toy win. And even nicer to know that it now resides in his collection because he's got a dope collection of kind of Star Wars figures. This one really made me laugh. This is by my boy Rainbow Yawn, like an awesome toy maker over on Instagram, and he's on TikTok and YouTube and all that stuff, and he's a collector, but he's most well known for like his dope resin toys that he makes. But he says that I got sent a free playset from Mattel back in the 80s after my dad wrote a letter of complaint to them because loads of bones broke on my Motu Battle bones straight away. If you know that figure, you know that those little bones snap off so fucking easy, so he was well in his rights to message them pissed off. Imagine my excitement as a child when a huge free box arrived from Mattel. I was sure they'd sent me a Castle Grayskull. Unfortunately, after opening the box to my horror, what they'd actually sent me was a complimentary She-Ra Crystal Castle Palace, which my He-Man figures didn't fit in, and my sister got it. This sounds like one for toy nightmares. Imagine that, like how much of a fucking tease that would be. You get this big box from Mattel and you think, oh shit, they've sent me the Grayskull, they've sent me a Eternia or Snake Mountain or something fucking big and awesome, and you open it and it's the She-Ra playset. As a kid, general dudes didn't want to play with She-Ra. You had a couple to mix in with your He-Man figures and stuff like that because you needed a couple of warrior women to rep amongst all these muscly dudes, but when it comes to the playset, you didn't want the big pink She-Ra Castle Palace. Like, you didn't really want that big Crystal Palace thing. It said it was marketed for girls. Girls wanted the big pretty pink one. Generally, as guys, times is different now, each to their own, but me personally, if it's anything like me, I'd have been so pissed off if I thought I was getting a Castle Grayskull and I got this big pink pussy palace. I suppose some people would see it as a toy win. There's plenty of people that would be buzzing with that, but me personally, and obviously Rainbow Yawn, we wouldn't have been buzzing thinking that we're getting a Castle Grayskull and we get the pink palace. So LL_Clex over on Instagram, he messaged me and he said that he's got something for a toy win. Now, it's not a toy, but it's still collectible, so I'm a huge fan, and last year I came across an image on Google of a trading card of a particular anime that I'm interested in, Attack on Titan. It was a signature card version, so I click on the image and it sent me to a few months old listing on eBay. I decided to message the seller to find out if it had sold, and it turns out it hadn't, so I made him an offer a bit less than it was originally listed for, and the deal was done. Fast forward to this year, I've since had the card graded and it turned out to be a very rare card. It's worth a lot more than I originally paid now. So this is also a nice little thing to say that, do you know when you see something on eBay and sometimes it's like the listing's ended, drop them a message, say, did that sell? because 9 times out of 10 it didn't sell. They just didn't relist it because maybe they've put it on a few times and nobody bought it. Maybe they're not getting exactly what they wanted for it, but then months later they're not that bothered anymore. They forgot that they even had it. It's in the back of their storage and they forgot that it never sold. There's been a few times where I've seen something on eBay and not really like messaged them before and said, would you take this? Can I jump queue in the eBay bidding or anything like that and offer you this now or anything like that? End the listing early. I'm not really that. That's a whole other thing. But like messaging the seller when something's sold and saying, did that sell? Do you want to sell it me? I'll offer you a little bit less than what it was on for it. Buy it now, but I'll pay now and you can just get rid of it. And do you know what? Sometimes it works. And for this guy, it really came out nice. Also, talking about Attack on Titan, that's another anime that I've never watched, but I've heard it's really good. My girl likes it a lot. And it's something that I would consider doing as a watch along in the future because it seems like it's got a big following and it's something that I need to be checking out. I saw the Marvel comic when they did Attack on Titan versus Marvel. That looked fucking awesome. And I've seen what it's about. Like, it's these giant, like, fucking skinless behemoth kaiju human people, like, smashing through a big medieval kingdom. Looks like my kind of shit, but I've not checked it out yet. Should I do a watch along of Attack on Titan? Let me know. But again, just back to this, the LL_Kleck says here on Instagram, it just goes to show that if you see something on eBay and it's ended but nobody bought it, always drop the seller a message and see if they want to sell it you, because chances are they probably just want to get rid of it and you can snag yourself a nice little bargain. Another fucking win for this guy. Not necessarily a toy, it's a trading card, but at the end of the day, a trading card is something that we play with. So what makes it not a toy? This is a good one from Big Man Toys, another toy maker, a guy that's part of the designer toy scene and stuff like that. And he's also a professional wrestler in fucking Japan. How awesome is that? But he said to me, when I was about 10, I found a Yoda in the dirt at the edge of the woods. At the same time, some teenagers threw a carriage clock contained in a bag of piss over the fence that smashed my mate on the head and covered him in piss. He was angry at me for not wanting to fight them, and I couldn't understand why he wasn't happier for me that I found a free Yoda. Do you know what it is? When you're a toy guy and you find a toy in that moment, it's euphoric and all you care about is finding that toy. And the fact that his friend was covered in piss was probably a bit funny to him as well. What a random story, but either way he came out with it with a nice free Yoda figure, so another Ken of Star Wars win. There's so many people in this and stuff that's like got sent to me that I didn't feature because for whatever reason it was too similar to other things that people sent me in, or it was too long-winded or whatever. It would, like I said, it would require a whole toy talk on its own. But so many of these like toy wins are surrounded by Ken of Star Wars figures. It just goes to show how much these figures mean to people, how nostalgic they are to toy collectors, and kind of makes sense that like even to this day, all these years later, you can't talk about toy collecting without some point mentioning the Ken of Star Wars line. So this guy Ryan Costa again over on Instagram, he dropped me a DM and he said, I went to an op shop back in 2015 and picked up a vintage Motu Mantisaur hidden in a teddy basket, found all the parts for it, went up to the counter and asked the gentleman how much, and he said 50 cents. So this is another like charity shop, thrift store kind of store. Now this was back in 2015, and 2015 and 2022 are two very different eras for toy collecting. I've had some awesome finds in charity shops over the years. I mean, even to this day, I never go past the charity shop without looking in it, even if I know that they probably haven't got anything. They might have a teddy basket, but you don't know. If you rummage to the bottom of that teddy basket, you might find an old My Pet Monster, you might find an old Clipper or something like that. You might find an action figure that's got thrown in there. You might find an old Action Man or anything. Always have a look. Same with the boxes of toy cars. You would be surprised how many times I found like a Transformer Headmaster or a Battle Beast in the bottom of a box of like dusty or metal cars in a charity shop. So always do look in those places, even if you think that it's pointless looking. Always have a look. 9 times out of 10 you find nothing, but every now and again you strike gold. Like this guy found a nice Motu Mantisaur, found all its bits, took it to the desk, and it was 50 cents. And the funny thing is about charity shops that nowadays, the ones that do sell toys and a bit more bric-a-brac and things like that, a lot of them are aware that toys are worth money. They're aware of the prices of stuff. The charity shop near me, they sit on eBay looking how much stuff's worth, and they put stuff straight on eBay. And it is a thing, but you'd be surprised that you can still find stuff in there. I went in the charity shop recently, and they had a pull cord original ET figure that you pull and it talks, and it was 20 quid. Still a nice price if you want one. I actually picked it up. This was about 3 months ago. I picked it up because I liked it and I wanted one, and I thought, yeah, do you know what? It's about the right price for it. 20 quid. It's a bit cheaper than it is on eBay, and it's real nice. It works. I want one for my collection. But at the same time that I bought that, I looked over on the action figures and I got 3 Thundercats in bags with their weapons that were just on a rack. I got Panthro, and I got Jackal Man and stuff, and Vulture Man, and they all had their weapons and bits. Not all the weapons, but like a few weapons was with them and things like that, and they were like £1 each. So it just goes to show that even though they knew that the ET was worth money, they didn't have a clue what the Thundercats were. So it's always worth having a look round. And also when I go in a charity shop, and very much like the ones I go to, I've flown very frequently. So if I go in, I can usually see if there's been like something new in there, and I'll look in, and if I see that there's a couple of action figures from the 90s and stuff like that, I know that there's probably others not far behind, so I'll fucking scour the whole shop and ask them if anything else similar came in. And yeah, I do every now and again find something awesome still in charity shops, even in 2022. Very different to 2015, but you can still find stuff if you're lucky. Another one that's very similar, not charity shop, but it's vintage shop, came from James from Earth over on Instagram, and I really like this one. This is the last one that I'm going to read out of the people that sent stuff in, and then I'll get to my toy wins in a minute. But he said to me, around the time the OG TMNT movie came out in 1990, side note, fucking incredible movie. I watch that like once a year, and I watched it recently with my girl, and it's so fucking good. Casey Jones, my guy. Anyway, the local Domino's pizza in my hometown of Long Beach was decked out in turtle-themed decor, most notably including the giant-sized Playmates figures from 1989. At the time, those figures were almost the same size as me, and since that day, I've always wanted them. They're now going for around $150 to $200 a piece, if they're in good shape with all their weapons. Fast forward to late last year, I found them in my local vintage shop in pristine condition, with all their accessories, and the deal I made got them for around $70 a piece. Childhood dream accomplished, an absolute toy win. So these are real awesome figures. I don't have any of them. I would love them, but I've just never come across them at a decent price. I had a couple as a kid, but they're like giant Playmates turtles. They have a belt on them, they have weapons and stuff like that, and over the years they've become more and more sought after. So imagine back in the 1990s, you was into Ninja Turtles, you went to Domino's Pizza and they had it all decked out looking like a fucking Ninja Turtles, like pure Ninja Turtles theme. That would have been incredible, especially having the big toys around. And like he said, that at the time he was so little, they was almost the same size as him. So he went to a vintage centre and he picked them up at a nice price, and it just goes to show that going in these vintage places is also a really good thing to do, because you're going to go to a place like a vintage centre, and if you don't know how a vintage centre works, I'll let you know in a second, but they're basically owned by like dealers, and several different dealers all sell their stuff in there, and he or she will put their stuff in a vintage centre and sell it, knowing that things of a certain value. Like if you're generally into antiques and dealing and toy collecting and a bit of wheeler dealing, you're going to know that if you get a load of Ninja Turtles with the weapons, they're worth something. You're going to go on eBay, have a look at the prices they sold for and stuff like that, and you're going to put them in your vintage centre, that maybe not at the price that they go for on eBay, but you're not going to put them out at 10 pence a piece. They're going to be like a general dealer's price, and I never mind paying a dealer's price, especially when it's at a vintage centre, because what you can normally do is like get a bit of a deal on a few things. Not always, I'll talk about in a minute when I recently walked away from a deal, but you can generally get a good deal on a few things. So what happens when there's a vintage centre? He or she, me for example, because I've sold stuff in a vintage centre for many years, you have a unit, you can rent a unit, like maybe it's a big wardrobe that's like decked out with shelves, maybe you pay like £60 to £80 a month just to rent that. You can fill it with as much stuff as you want, you can price it all. People walk around the vintage centre, they'll see something in your store that they like, and they'll go to the desk and say, I want that Thundercat that's in shelf 2B, it's £50, and they'll pay the desk £50, and then they either take a commission off the stuff that you sell in the vintage centre, or you can just rent the whole unit. That's how it worked in the vintage centre that I was a part of for many years. My dad always had a vintage centre when I was a kid. He always had like a unit in a vintage centre and stuff like that. Like I said, I sold the Bushwhackers in it. But what you will do in one of these places, you can rent anything from a room as big as this full of stuff, or you can just rent a shelf like that. And even though the people in there are selling stuff, knowing that like, yeah, I'm selling things in here that I kind of know the price of, I know that it's not going to be super cheap, but it's not going to be super dear and stuff like that, you can generally go in and get a deal on a few things. And I find that anybody in like the toy world, the antique world, anyone that sells like secondhand stuff, collectibles or anything like that, they're usually willing to do a deal on a few things. Even if it's like stuff that they're selling that they don't think is like too expensive, they will generally do you a deal if you're buying multiple things off them. And it sounds like this guy got a nice deal on all 4 Ninja Turtles and got them for around $70 a pop. So let's say they're $150 with the weapons out of the box on eBay and stuff like that. Selling them for $70 a pop is a lot cheaper, but it's still a nice price to get for them if you've not really spent much on that stuff. It's still a nice deal that you can both walk away from and both be happy. I recently went into a vintage centre local to me, and I'm not going to say which one it is, but I went in recently and I bought some stuff, and then what I did is I saw something and I thought, yeah, I'm having that. And then I also noticed that they had a bunch of action figures with their weapons, like some old 80s stuff, and I thought, oh, they're nice, I might pick them up as well. But it was quite a few of them, and I thought, if I'm going to buy all this stuff, I want to make a deal on it. I want to get a deal on everything. I'm not like itching to buy them, but they're a good price, so I can get them. I want a few in my collection that I don't have. I can trade some with other people for things I need and things like that. So I asked the guy, will you do a deal on everything? And he said no. So he lost out on like £100 odd because he wouldn't do a deal on a few things because he says, oh no, it's a bargain, I'm going to keep them at that. Which was really weird to me, because in this toy thing, like buying and selling, trading and collecting and all that kind of stuff, you're supposed to look after each other, you're supposed to do a bit of a deal, and it doesn't hurt to like knock a little £5–10 off if someone's spending like over £100 on stuff from your vintage centre. So maybe he doesn't know how this stuff works, I don't know, but either way, this guy here, James from Earth, he got a really nice deal because he obviously dealt with a trader in his local vintage centre that knows how this game works, and made him a deal that they were both happy on. So yeah, an absolute toy win, and I'm buzzing for James from Earth because he obviously wanted them, he saw them as a little kid, and all these years later he came home with them, and who knows, they might have even been the ones that was on the shelf when he was a kid. Those very same ones, they might have come off that shelf and gone through past a few hands, past a few traders' hands and stuff like that, and then ended up in the vintage centre local to him, and now he owns them. Fucking awesome. Absolute toy win, brother. So just talking a little bit about like my toy wins and things like that. Now, if you don't know me, or if you do know me, you'll know that I was raised by a toy collector, by a toy dealer, by somebody that like bought and sold stuff that was worth money and collectibles and things like that all my life. Before I could even talk, before I could walk, I was dragged around market stalls and car boats and things like that. And some of my earliest memories with my dad are like walking around market stalls and things. That's just my life. That's what I was always like as a kid. So I've always been around this stuff, and there's been many times where like we've had a call at the ad mag back in the day. People used to ring up at the ad mag because my dad used to advertise in there that he bought toys and things. We would go around someone's house and they would have tons of Star Wars Kenner stuff all boxed. We would get He-Man, we would get loads of Power Rangers stuff boxed, loads of vintage Action Man and stuff like that, because my dad was a big Action Man guy. But they're the stories that like we've got hundreds of them. But there's one that I thought about when I thought about like toy wins and things that stand out a little bit more to me, and it's all about these things. It all surrounds these things. Fiendish Feet. So Fiendish Feet came out in the late 90s, actually 1990 I believe, and they're not actually a toy. They're a fucking yogurt pot. They're packaging for a yogurt, but because they had little feet on them and a little face like that, they kind of like a toy. But at the same time, because they was packaging, 99.9% of these got thrown in the garbage. Now, some people used to keep these a little bit longer. You would get people that like would pester their parents to buy them because they was on the shelf and they looked like a little toy. So after they'd ate the yogurt out of it, the parents would wash them out and they would keep them. I don't know, they might keep coins in them, they might keep marbles in them, action figure accessories. My friend Jen, who's in my movie, when she was a kid, her parents grew cress in them, but eventually they're the kind of thing that would get thrown in the fucking garbage because they are just packaging. But as a kid, a lot of us used to pester our parents to buy the yogurt pots of Fiendish Feet, and a lot of the time people didn't even like the taste of them. In fact, some of the memories that people always say to me is that I had Fiendish Feet as a kid, but I fucking hated the yogurt. I just used to eat it because I wanted the toy. And I'm still a bit of a sucker like that now. Like, I will buy a pot noodle or an energy drink that's a flavour that's not even necessarily my favourite, but it's got fucking Pikachu on it or Master Chief from Halo or something like that, and I'll buy it because it's got him on it, because I'm just as much of a sucker now as I was when I was a little kid, like pestering my mum to buy this stuff. Like buying boxes of cereal that I didn't even like the taste of because I wanted the free Monster in My Pocket figure that came inside it. But anyway, a real good toy win, all for me, surrounds around these Fiendish Feet toys. I also want to say this, just mid-story, that at the minute I'm fucking exhausted. For the past 3 weeks, I've not had a day off. I've been shooting my movie, and then we've been doing like loads of landscaping in my garden for a project that I'm like doing later on that I'm going to talk about. But like, I'm absolutely exhausted, so if any of my words seem slurred or like incomprehensible in this video, then please just bear with me because I'm so fucking tired. And tomorrow morning we're going to popcorn to do the popcorn convention. Like, I don't even know how I'm going to get through it, but I have to find a way, and I always have to make sure that I've got Toy Talk Tuesdays on Patreon in advance and things like that. So if I'm a little bit slurry, that's why. I'm just fucking knackered, man. So anyway, my dad, he works in like salvage recycling, house clearances and scrap metal and all that kind of thing, and every now and again he'll stumble across a house that has like dope stuff that they're clearing out. So he was doing a house clearance on a house where they just had a skip outside and they were throwing some stuff in it, and he found these in the skip and the person was throwing them out. Now this was a skip that he got loads of cool 70s stuff out of, and these were in there. So this was like an old couple that had probably kept these for the grandkids for fucking years, all the way from the 90s, and then they were throwing them out. So these are so funny because they actually, people try and sell these on eBay for a lot of money. and I fucking love them, but I ain't gonna spend a lot of money on eBay for fucking packaging from a yogurt from the 90s. I like it because it's quirky and it's cool. I didn't even realize this. It sounds like I'm plugging my own shit, and I'm not, because you can't even buy these anymore. But this is a t-shirt. Well, this is actually a jumper that I designed of Fiendish Feet a couple of years ago, and they were like a limited run, and I sold them all and things like that. Again, a whole other story. But I'm a mad fan of this line. I really do like them. Like, they're so quirky and fun and weird. They came out in the 90s, so they've got that retro vibe. But I'm also into like fast food and junk food and stuff that you remember eating as a kid, and restaurant giveaways and all that kind of thing. It's just crazy that people try and sell these on eBay for a lot of money, because like I said, 99.9% of these got thrown away because there was just packaging. They're just garbage. Toys are very disposable. I've talked about that before, but packaging for food is super fucking disposable. It's made to be thrown away. So the fact that any of these exist is so fucking rare now. So it was awesome that my dad found 3 of them in a fucking skip on a house that he was doing a clearance on. Because if you look on eBay, you'll see people trying to sell these for a lot of fucking money. More money than I would ever pay for a yogurt pot. But I'm a big fan of this brand, and it's weird because years later, like, my friends at Nima Studios ended up like getting the rights to this brand, and I ended up doing the packaging design for the toy, the backing card art for it. So like a mad full circle thing, that as a kid I was a fan of these yogurt pots, and then as I got older as a collector, I wanted some in my collection. My dad found some in a skip, and they're like, even now, even though they're just yogurt pots, they're like the prized pieces of my collection, one of my favorite things in the collection. And then years later, I got to work on the official re-release of the what are now action figures for Nima Studios. Crazy! I love it. But yeah, definitely a toy win, and another skip win. There's a few skip wins that we've had in our lives, me and my dad, over the years of like doing like house clearances and salvage, collecting and scrap and all that kind of thing. My dad, like I said, he was a big Action Man collector back in the day. He's actually started giving me a lot of his collection. So if you're into old 80s, 60s, old 70s, 80s and 60s Action Men, like I said, I'm knackered. I can't even get my fucking eras in order. But if you're a big fan of them, I'm going to be featuring a lot of that stuff on a channel over the next few months. But it's rare that like my dad would find something that was like for him that he wanted. He would find some stuff that he knew I wanted, or he would find some stuff that he knew he could sell. But there was one time we was like on an early morning scrap collection, and there was a skip with a suitcase on the top. Just jumped out, unzipped the suitcase, had a look, and it was full of old fucking 70s Action Men, the 70s ones, and they all had the little medals and stuff like that. Maybe even the late 60s ones, but they had the guns. They were like factory fresh, looked like the fucking costumes had been ironed, like absolutely perfect. So again, never walk past a skip and don't have a little rubberneck and have a look in it. Obviously, don't walk down someone's garden drive and start looking at it. You can always knock on the door and say, excuse me, do you mind if I have a look in your skip? And 9 times out of 10, they're all right with that, because it means that there's more space in the skip for them to put more stuff in if you do take some stuff out. But yeah, my dad's had some absolute winning skip finds. Another find that I wanted to talk about before I wrap this up, which is another really cool thing, and like I said, we've had lots over the years where we've gone around someone's house and we've bought a load of good stuff at like a nice price, and it's been a toy win. Not so much anymore, but back in the day. But this is one that like was again from a few years ago, and again because of the job that my dad does. So he was doing a house clearance at someone's house that he knows, like he knows them just through doing like house clearances. This guy just like rings him up when he's got some stuff that my dad can come and collect and stuff, and in it he got this. Now there's a mad story how I got this. So my dad picked this up. I didn't even really think anything of it. He got it off the guy, and the guy told him that, and this guy's like in his 70s now, that in the, it must have been like the mid 90s, early 90s, the 80s or whatever, him and a load of his friends, like lad friends, bought them as a bit of a joke for like a night out, for like a stag do or like a lads night out or something like that. And they all had one of these. They're probably whacking each other with them, just like running around as like lads having a drink and stuff. But they all bought them, and these are like super rare now Madballs bats. They're not actually made by Madballs. They're made by like knockoff companies that saw that Madballs were popular and saw a gap in the market, that Madballs had not actually released their own baseball bats, so they released these knockoff, and at the time they would have been a couple of quid, and they're also the kind of toy that so many people would have had, got them from holiday or stuff like that when they went to America from like a shitty beach shop, and they just have had them in the garden and thrown them around, and they got smashed up and covered in dirt and things because they were just a cheap toy. But ironically, years later, like these are worth a lot of money. So my dad got this and put it in his vintage center. I didn't get this off my dad. He got it and put it in his vintage center for a couple of quid, and then my friend bought it and then swapped it me for a rare knockoff that he wanted, so it ended up in my collection. And again, it's one of my favorite pieces. It's one of my most prized possessions in my collection. I fucking love this thing, and these now can sell on eBay for like people try and sell them on eBay for like a couple of $100s and stuff like that. I know a few people that's got them and they've paid a bit of money for them, but the toy win part of this is that not only did my dad just get it in a house clearance for free, and I got it for like just a bootleg that I had that my friend wanted, the fact that people try and sell these for a shit ton of money, and this one came out of a skip, and that's why it takes even more pride of place in my collection than if I'd have paid a lot of money for it, which I never would, because why am I paying a lot of money for a hollow, like blow molded, cheap knockoff plastic bat? Some people might spend a lot of money on it, I fucking don't. And even if I never had another one, there's a few different variations of it and stuff like that, even if I never had another one, I'm happy that I've got this one and it costs nothing and it will take pride of place in my collection. An absolute fucking 100% toy win. So I hope you enjoyed this little video today. Like I said, if I'm slurring my words and I seem tired, like, I apologize. I'm just so fucking exhausted. But like, I set myself a very strict schedule with Slimehouse where I have to put videos out every Tuesday and stuff like that to keep up to date with everybody that donates on the Patreon and stuff like that. So I do apologize if I'm a bit tired and my words are a bit slurry. Like, it's literally because I am fucking tired. But I've got so much cool stuff coming out. I've been working really hard over the past few weeks to try and get my movie finished and get this other stuff finished that I don't want to talk about yet, but it's going to be coming out in the future and it's going to be awesome. So if you want to help support everything that I do here on Slimehouse, like I said, I do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/Slimehouse TV. There's a couple of tiers on there, including one that helps you get videos like this a couple of weeks in advance. I'm also on Instagram if you want to get at me on Instagram at Theo_Kane_Slimehouse. Drop me a DM on there if you've got anything that you want to talk about privately that you don't want to comment below. And if you want to comment below, give this video a like if you enjoyed it today. Don't forget to go and binge the back catalogue because there's a shit ton of videos on here because I'm always fucking grafting on Slimehouse. And if there's any other toy wins that you've got that you want to tell me about, then let me know in the comments below. And if there's any other cool suggestions that you've got for a future Toy Talk Tuesday episode, then again, drop them in the comments below. And if I choose them and if I think they're good and I feel like we've not covered it before, then I'll absolutely talk about them here on Toy Talk Tuesday. So, like I said, I'm absolutely fucking knackered. I'm going to go try sleep for a bit before I get ready for this big popcorn convention that we're running this weekend, but that's also going to be awesome, and no doubt I'll have some cool stuff filmed there that we can put on the channel as well in the future. So, until the next video, I'll catch you then. Pow!